First of all, welcome to the Pioneer Mind podcast, and where we try to get into the idea and exploring the concept of how people leave things behind with the idea of going forward into something new. And it's a pretty powerful thing because I think a lot of people in the culture are stuck wanting to go forward but not knowing how. And I think it's a pretty powerful thing to really encourage that, especially amongst these young people. So I just welcome you to the podcast today. And again, as we explore these subjects over the next few years or whatever, have a lot of interviews set up. I'm really excited about it. Today we got with us my best half, my better half, Kathy Workman. Who has truly been a pioneer in many ways, way more than me in many ways. She is a person jumping off cliffs pretty easily to discover some new things. One of her passions for our family, for sure. But again, we made a lot of mistakes early on, I think, as we talked about it.
Apparently, we didn't know.
Yeah, ignorantly. We just didn't understand completely what was happening. But again, you get the food pyramid in your kindergarten years in first grade, and it's telling you to eat this, that, and the other. And I'm eating a box of Wheaties like every other day. I'm literally pouring them in a bowl, smashing them down, pouring a half a gallon of milk on, and eating Wheaties, and I'm going to be a champion.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a joke, right? So we just have a lot of bad messages. But for you, I know this has been an absolute lifelong passion of yours, and it's not about creating like business reputation or wealth or whatever you think you're marketing in terms of products. That's really got to be set aside. You're really driven by the idea of helping people. I know you are, and I'm proud of you for that because it really comes through with when you talk to people, and it's not a minor issue to talk about because it really takes education and all those things. Your patience on phone calls and different things is amazing. You need to know you do a great job. Um, just for a few seconds, I want to just talk about a couple things that have in our connection and all this is really about 10 years ago. My father had passed away. I'm starting to think about my own health, which was terrible. I basically went from 44 to 50 and was really a big man. Was not eating right and all those kind of things. So I started working out. I'm gonna start working out, And what I found out is that you don't lose weight working out or exercising. You lose weight eating. And what I was putting in was still bad, and I was just a really strong fat guy. Right? Is it
Yeah.
true? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm working out and sweating and going every day, very diligent, all those kind of things. I was athletic as a high school, college guy. Thought I knew everything, and I really didn't know much at all. Truly. And so for me, that was a beginning, and it was a start. But again, your concentration on food and the right amounts, portions, all those messages over the years. And again, I fought you probably a number of times, like, hey, you're going too far. This is too nutty or whatever. And then I realized when I embrace it, oh, that's really a good thing. It's really helping me. So, it was a big deal for me to kind of do that at that time. And as I've turned 60, I'm realizing that age is not a disease. Chronological age is not a disease. It's not killing me. That's not what's killing me. Oh, you're getting old, right? That's not true. It's not the right message. The message is that you can live healthy and strong and wonderful into your later years, and there's no reason. And a lot of it goes back to our diet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely. So for me, part of this journey in the last 10 years, it sounds dumb, but I took a kayaking weekend over at Housebell on Flathead Lake, and I'm, somewhat bored. I'd been on the water a couple times, so I was going down to Big Fork. I was walking through a pottery gallery as a 50-some-year-old man. That's how I'm going to spend my time. But there's this book tucked behind a piece of pottery stacked up, and I reached back behind it and grabbed it because I love to read, which
Yeah.
I love to read. So I figured I'll check it out. And the book was "The Mountain Is You." And I have talked endlessly about that book to anybody who will hear it, but it's really this idea of self-sabotage as a coping mechanism. We sabotage the very things we say we want because there's something else that we want more or whatever. It really challenges the idea that, we say we want to diet, want to get healthy, but then it sabotages sometimes within hours, not even days or weeks, right? How many times have you seen that?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and that kind of brings the point of, we have skills and we have mindsets. And you can have the great skill, but if you don't have the mindset to go with it, and I think that's what you came away with from that is that your mindset was like, It was always something else was the mountain.
Yeah.
And when you can look and take responsibility and go, "Oh, the mountain is me," things can change.
Yeah, I wanted to blame the economy at the time, stress in my business or whatever. My boys were driving me nuts or whatever for that I'm overeating or I'm stress eating or whatever. And the truth of it is that I was my own mouth. And really that's the message for everybody. You are in the way of your own end result that you say you want, but you sabotage it. No, I don't, people say. And I can visit with them for about 5 minutes and hear the excuses and this and that and why not, I can't, no way, it's not for me, it doesn't taste good, all the
Yeah.
messages you hear, which are ridiculous, right? So that book, I read it twice and I've read it twice since, and I'm going to read it again because I need that message. Even as I get older, the mountain is me. When something's getting in the way and I'm not going to move forward, it's most likely me. And
Yeah.
that's a message for everybody,
Yeah.
you know. And then the other thing I would say as we premise this as we get into what you're going to talk about, is that I don't think I get there on my own. Like, I don't underestimate or oversay to you how important your diligence and sometimes annoying push into this passion you have has helped me. And again, I wouldn't have gone there on my own. I guarantee I would have ate myself to death over the last 10 years. You know what I mean? And if I hadn't had the messages, the questioning. So, really in our home, there's like two passions in our home, I think. I think about this quite a bit. It's like, I always feel like every discussion we have, and it's mostly because of you, not necessarily me. I'm doing it too, though. I watched a video today on this, on what spikes insulin. I saw this today. I read this article about, whatever, so I'm constantly reading and studying. You are constantly reading and studying. Is it not true that most of our conversations in the home are around two things? What that scripture in Joshua, I don't understand that story.
Yeah.
That's crazy what they did to him and Jephthah and whatever. And we're talking about the things of God. And, even like what I was sharing the other day is that I think I'm consumed by that idea is that I'm not going to even make a decision without considering what God wants for me. And then I said the next subject you talk about is you and I talk about health stuff almost
Yeah.
all day. Do we not?
Yeah.
Eh, and so that don't you believe that comes from you and your passion? Because I wouldn't have it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Y-
Got a lot of questions.
Yeah, and really that's showing up in all your friendships too, right? Like
Yeah, probably.
they're
Mhm.
they're on to these things because of you being a good friend,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
sure.
so the message is that the mountain is you
Mhm.
for me, and I'm realizing that I got a long way to go. I still got mountains, and I still got things that And again, I don't necessarily fight cravings and all that anymore. I have a pretty standard, pretty good deal going. I think you would back me up on that. But there's definitely thinking and stuff from my youth, from growing up, from what my dad was 3 or 4 big meals a day, you know what I mean? That's how you ate as an American, and I'm realizing, man, you don't need hardly any food. It's very
Yeah.
little. You can live on a lot less. So those messages were pretty powerful for me. So what was your spark? What got you going? I mean, I know a little bit of it, but part of it is like when I say annoying and use words like uh, nonstop, it's just something, I'm right what I'm saying.
Well, let's take it back and blame it on the parents. I can track it probably all the way back to my dad. And I remember a time when we lived down in Sula at the little ranger station, and my dad said, "I got a deal for you kids. If for every day you run a mile, I'll give you $1." Well, that was back in the 70s. That was a lot of money to a kid. I'm thinking, I could get $30 for just running down to this post that he marked out.
Bucks might as well have been a $500.
Big bucks. But he said to us, he said, "I would rather pay for good lifestyle than pay for your bad lifestyle."
Yeah,
I don't know if those are the words he used, but that's how it stuck in my mind. Like, if I don't take care of my health, then I will be taking care of my illness.
yeah,
And
interesting.
and my dad was really big on always trying to figure things out too. Looking back over his life, he would be out jogging before jogging was cool. So people would stop by and pick him up. "Are you doing okay?" Thought he's out running.
Well, I'd probably stop too. Your dad was sometimes in the zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we had the prevention magazines, and he's just keeping up with everything all the time.
Oh, I got you.
And so he and me was like this health thing um that just stuck in me. Well, then as I got a little bit older and a little bit pudgier, and I was like, okay, wait a minute, I got to pay attention to this health thing. So I'm, following the food pyramid that we were all taught because my dad, he had his super cereal so he could get all his grains in. It's like, it'll get you over the mountain.
Quick question. Didn't he want to be an experiment? Like
He was a human experiment, is
he
what he
wanted to
said.
be, right?
Yeah.
He
Oh,
talked
no.
that way.
No, he was his lifestyle. And really, honestly, I guess my lifestyle is a human experiment too, because I'm always looking and listening. And hey, did you hear about that? Hey, did you try this? Hey, you know what? If you stand on 3 feet
Trust me, I
and
know
put
it's
your,
annoying.
yeah,
Go ahead.
anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I can look back and go when I was in high school and, making these protein, well, they weren't even protein pancakes. They were just plain old grain pancakes. You'd add extra grains and extra
Yeah.
this, trying to, you know, lose weight. Then you go out and, run your brains out and, just keep getting heavier. And so anyway, that was where my spark came from,
Yeah.
from my dad.
And not so much your mom, but because your mom was the same thing, man. She
Oh,
tried
both of
everything,
them. Yeah.
magnets, and I mean
Yeah.
everything they tried was.
But yeah, both of them were very much into that. I would just say it was kind of my dad that always kind of led the charge and challenged us kids. And
Did the other kids take on the challenge too?
they probably did. Yeah, I think we
I
all
would think Scott
wanted
did.
wanted the bucks.
'Cause
Yeah,
he's kind of a driver, right?
yeah, I think we all were into that. But yeah, stuck with me.
So in terms of like early on, like when we were in Kansas, you worked for Nutrisystem.
Yeah,
Somehow got that.
isn't it funny?
And again, you were always attracted to those things, and you have a social work education background. And you thought, okay, I'm gonna get into this industry and help people. And then you find out it's not really for me, right? What you discovered, both of us discovered that early on in our lives. It's early marriage with what we were doing. uh, where I was going with that is that you kind of had just attracted to it almost like a magnet to a magnet. You really weren't looking for jobs or, necessarily, but
Yeah,
you always ended up in the same place.
yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's kind of fascinating, and I love how God sets a path before us. And yeah, I was at Nutrisystem when I was pregnant with my first child, and I'm packing veggies and riding my bicycle to work, and the other little gal at the desk is eating donuts and an iced tea, and it was just interesting to me. Again, the different connections and the different paths. And by the way, she had her baby in the car on the way to the hospital, and I think I had 23 hours of labor.
It was 23.
So
Yeah.
things just never lined up for me. Like this is supposed to work this way or that way, or even when we were, first married, and my brother-in-law at age 30
Oh, yeah.
got cancer. The questions for me because I know that God wants us healed and whole. Yet we've normalized sickness so much, and I've just watched that happen over and over and over. So I think wanting to be in the healing and the helping um, avenue has always just been a part of my journey as well.
Yeah, I want to add on something to that a little bit, and with Rob, when that went on, I mean, made my mind swirl for sure. It still does. I had so much respect for him, and just thought the world of him and his humor and the way he saw life. He was an
Mhm.
amazing guy,
Mhm.
and it really didn't make any sense to me. But really, I would say even then, with that experience and with my mom's experience and my dad's, all those kind of things added up to me in the sense of I'm going to do my own due diligence on learning what's going on in my body. I've had a couple things that I've had happened to me that were totally related to insulin resistance, eating sugar,
Yeah.
grains, and all that kind of stuff. This, I had skin problems from my knees to my trunk in the sense of psoriasis. And I'm like, so I'm going to the doctor and they're saying it's this, this, and this. And when you find out it's all diet related, I change my diet, it goes away
Yeah.
within like almost immediately. Like it's amazing. So I know that I needed to start doing my own research on everything. If I had had some hip and muscle problems, those kind of things, realized that I was doing the wrong exercises, working on my backside when I should be doing on the front muscle groups. Next thing you know, that's gone.
Yeah.
And again, I think with this health thing that
We are living experience.
we are and flat out should be researching and studying for our own health.
Yeah.
We're going to be our own best doctor. I don't care what anyone says. They don't know what's going on in your brain, what you're thinking, the fears you may have, the pains you may have. And you need to get in there and start working on it yourself. And again, we always want to farm everything out to a third party to tell us what the problem is when really they're not living in your body. They don't
Yeah.
necessarily know. And I'm definitely going to seek counsel, but I know that that's been a big part of my journey is realizing that I needed to kind of learn myself. And that's where you come in. You've been such a big help in that area. I would know almost none of the things I know because I wouldn't have cared about enough about
Yeah.
it.
Well, and when you have an interest, I think we draw things to ourselves. Because I look back at
Yeah,
at
100%.
when I started working at the Curves and Jenny Craig. I was so grateful God put me in that because I would have been one of these DIY people for the rest of my life, trying to figure this out or that out. You know, you lose 20 pounds, you gain 25, and you just keep thinking, because I never would have invested in something like that. Like Jenny Craig was this program that people had to invest in. And I realized my mindset at first was this, well, I want it cheap and fast, and I can figure this out. If you can do it that way, I can do it cheaper this way. And realizing that's a really poor mentality because
Yeah,
none of us are going to back our car up to a garden hose and put water in it because we're too cheap to put fuel in it and expect it to go anywhere.
right.
However, we're doing that all the time with our bodies. We're doing this cheap and fast thing.
That makes
And
sense.
so that was a real eye opener for me with Jenny Craig was, hey, we can shrink your food, we can shrink you. But I had no idea what else was going on in that. So when that company went out of business and cut off all the consultants, and that's a whole nother story, but 6,000 of us were
Oh,
left, and they turn their business around. They sell your client list and they sell the recipes to Nutrisystem. Nutrisystem opens it up as the new Jenny Craig. So just a little FYI there.
yeah.
But in that, we'd always run the business as if it was like, all right, God, it's your business. If you want to close it, close it. And it was so cool to me how literally we're sitting in the office going, I don't know what we're going to do. And the phone rings and I'm like, how am I supposed to answer that? So I'm like, hello. And they go, is this Jenny Craig? And I go, well, it was. And they're like, oh, this is Ideal Protein. In my mind, I'm going, oh, it's that protein company, blah, blah. And as I started talking, I'm like, they go, are you interested in, what we might be doing? And quite frankly, I said, well, we're kind of in a position to listen to anything. But I was negative in my mind about this thing because I didn't know anything about it. And I just poo-pooed it. And again, as we talk to them and learn, I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes perfect sense. And in a world where there's so much information, I've really learned to trust my discernment of, that resonates. Because when something resonates, there's some truth to
Well,
it.
you've got 1,000 clients that have shared their story, and you have this memory bank of stories. Like, oh, that's exactly what you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
not like you're just void. Your discernment came from a memory bank
right.
of discussions about what's going on. I ate that. It didn't make me feel good. And you realize they probably have,
Yeah,
insulin resistance or whatever,
yeah.
right? Go ahead.
So with this new program, which is Ideal Protein, we're talking about the ideal amount of protein to protect your lean muscle mass. And it's not just calories in, calories out, because Jenny was all about the calories. Well, I had no idea about the fats, the proteins and the carbs, the macro codes. So that was really interesting to me. And like, okay, metabolic health. We started hearing all these buzzwords, metabolic health, insulin resistance. I'm like, that's for diabetics. Check, check. It didn't apply to me. So I just kept, we don't listen to it. And then you start realizing it's by design. We have terminology that's changed or just a lot of different buzzwords we throw out there, but it doesn't do us any good because we don't know what it is.
Yeah, freedom used to mean, free to be an entrepreneur and create a life in America without the restraints of government, right? Now it's freedom from restraint, meaning you can't tell me what to do. We, everything's
Yeah.
being twisted in just these subtle ways that kind of screws up. And it's definitely in the food thing. When you read a label, you have no idea what you're reading because they have confused it so badly, right?
Well, and you kind of have to use the rebel spirit to your advantage.
I believe in
So
rebellion.
I guess I really feel like, when I want to give something up, I know there's so much power in the mindset. Like, for example, I didn't have very many vices, or so I thought. So Diet Coke was my vice, and I thought I tried to give it up over the years and just never could. Well, when Diet Coke started coming out with her whole woke, don't be so white, I was like, all right, that's stupid. I will never give them
It
a
actually said that?
yeah, yeah. I saw it was like, I will never give them another dime.
Mm.
And so whether it's a stubbornness or a rebellion, and I was able to give up Diet Coke, never looked back. And that was empowering to me to recognize, okay, if we switch our mindset about something, we can do about anything.
Right,
And that's well, there's nothing comfortable about not being able to get in your pants.
right.
So instead of calling it comfort food, let's call it miserable food and let's just be real with ourselves. And those just little switches can help empower you to make the changes.
Yeah, and I think that comfort thing is, we've read the book The Comfort Crisis. It's a powerful book if you ever want to read one. It's really good for American culture and you need to read it. So, Comfort Crisis. Anyway, the deal of it is though is I think that comfort's just momentary. It's like literally like maybe even just a few minutes is that comfort. And you got to go back. It's almost like a dopamine rush
It
like
is a
with
dopamine.
drugs. You got to keep getting that fix over and over all day long or you can't even want to maintain that comfort, right?
Well, and that's as you keep going through these curtains of truth, as you keep looking and pioneering, as you would say,
Yeah,
into
I believe
things,
in that.
you start recognizing a lot of this stuff is done by design. Um,
Hmm.
and again, you think it's one guy's bad idea. And to me, I guess I've been able to see the principalities behind things. So, like, say, for example, well, big pharma in itself is one. And our food industry, those are others.
They're working in conjunction. Those two industries work together.
Right.
We
Yeah.
know that.
Legislation is being done. And I guess it's just hard to fathom that anybody would do something with that kind of evil intent. And I think that's why we've all been such sitting ducks and targets because we can't fathom what evil is. And the good side about all of the different things that have been happening with COVID and people waking up and asking more questions about things is we're now starting to question things and we want something different. And when we ask for and search and seeking, you will find.
Well, you've been doing this roughly 20 some years like professionally, more than that if you still consider Nutrisystem. And then, and again, everyone at the house and expert you're I don't think I've ever seen you this excited about anything. You get excited about things, your kayaking yaks and all the little schemes. I call you a schemer, right? You're my schemer. I hear her in the back room. I'm like, oh, she's scheming. I can hear it. It's just funny to me. But you are absolutely energized for this like nothing I've ever seen. And it's really different. This is different, what you're doing and how excited you are. And I think it comes through, obviously, everyone you talk to. I mean, total strangers, about insulin resistance, you go after.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I guess, again, when you find the truth can set you free. First, it can make you mad, and then it can set you free. And I think when we switched over to the ideal protein and started learning more about, okay, we shrink we shrink your food, blah, blah, blah. And there was nothing wrong with that in terms of we overindulge on everything. So getting portions in control was step one for me. Step two was, okay, now let's evaluate these calories I'm eating. Am I getting enough protein? Am I getting the healthy fats? And what number of carbs am I getting in there? So that was very good information. And it also gave me because then now we could look under the hood. Now I'm like, oh, I didn't even know what the pancreas did. Honestly, here I am, 50 some years old. I'm like, I know there's a pancreas in there. I'm not sure what it does.
Yeah.
Insulin, I think that's for diabetics. So recognizing we know so little about our own bodies that it was like one thing led to the next. So I could open up the hood. We know that, okay, if I do this, then the pancreas has to make a lot of insulin. The insulin then has to go in there and clean the blood. And, again, we're using words like metabolic health. We're healing your metabolic health. And I'm like, okay, that sounds really good. And I watching it happen in people's lives as we lower the carbohydrates and take the sugars out and get the proteins, their bodies are transforming. They come in each week with what we call our non-scale victories. And they're like, oh my gosh, the clarity in my mind. I heard that over and over. My blood pressure, I was able to get off my blood pressure medication. Oh, no longer have sleep apnea, all the time while the scale is going down too. So they came to us for weight loss, one symptom of this great big problem that we can talk more about. But so we were helping them with the symptom by healing the root. So I got to watch it. And so it made perfect sense to me when I started listening to Shannon. She's talking. I'm like, I hear her passion. I'm like, I got to hear more.
No, it is.
I want to learn more. And that was a huge fan to my flame or spark or whatever
100%.
that you would say. I'm like, okay, I need to learn more of this so I'm better for my clients. And then as she started talking about the product, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect because we all work hard to get it off. And then if you start introducing any of the carbohydrates at all, those cravings come back.
That's what, and again, I think that's an important point in this and in your journey. You're just thinking about Nutrisystem, Jenny Craig. Like I did Jenny Craig. I loved it. I lost weight. I did great. And then you look at the label, it's still 46 or 64 grams of carbs in these meals. And they're little meals, so you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you just realize, okay, and then we went with the ideal protein. I started learning the science of it, getting under the hood a little bit, and liked the idea of proteins and fat, limiting the carbs, all those kind of things. And then when you get to this side of it and in the wheel here that they show you with insulin resistance as the core thing, and everything else is a symptom coming off of you not having a proper diet with it. Weight loss is just one.
Yeah.
What were you doing in Jenny Craig? You were focusing on one,
Yeah, that's what I
not the whole wheel.
Right.
And when you realize it takes the whole wheel, you can be healthy wholly in a wholeness kind of attitude. And I think that's where this has led you is you're leaning more towards wholeness anymore than just weight loss.
Well, you just start recognizing it. I don't know if you can see this little wheel, but we got insulin resistance is at the core. And then you got diabetes, cancer, PCOS, polycystic ovarian cysts, fatty liver, heart disease, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's, migraines, erectile dysfunction, neuropathy. You got skin tags, belly fat, inflammation, high cholesterol, high blood sugar, constant cravings. All of these symptoms, and this is where I was talking about the principality as it's a bigger picture behind it. So the medical system has set up specialists for each of these issues that you're going to have. So now I can have 2, 3, 4 specialists in my life, but the specialist is only trained in the symptoms. They don't even know what the root cause is because they're not trained in that. And so we go to them and they're happy to give you a pill. That's actually their job. They get paid on that. That's how they get their bonuses. That's how they do is how many people they're treating, what kind of medications, the pharmaceuticals are giving them kickbacks. So they're going to give you a pill for the symptom, but they don't even know what the root cause is, which excites me because when you look at the problem is 93% of Americans and probably around the world, but let's just stick with America, are metabolically unhealthy.
Mm.
That's terrifying
Yeah.
to think. And most of us don't even know it because it's normalized so much that having a conversation with, oh yeah, my Uncle Buck just had to have his foot cut off. That diabetes got him, or yeah, my Aunt Martha, she's having heart problems because her cholesterol was high. We've normalized that when I guess I feel really blessed to have been in a business where I'm watching people get better and better and better.
Very encouraging.
So when I can go, oh my gosh, I have seen these things get better for them. It gave me more of a passion to go to this root and understand what is insulin resistance.
Right. So the symptoms, you know, you can deal with the symptom, but if you're not dealing with the core, it'll return.
Yeah.
Right.
So when we talk about metabolic health, of course, that's the big buzzword, and maybe a number of you know it, and that'd be great. Metabolic health is just basically how does your body process energy? So then we use that term, and then we talk about insulin resistance. Again, we've connected to a diabetic. So if you're a diabetic, you probably understand insulin resistance. Well, when we eat sugar, you can only have 1 tablespoon of sugar. No, sorry, 1 teaspoon, a little sugar cube in your blood at a time.
Okay.
At a time.
That's all it can support.
That's all it can support. So insulin's job is to keep it cleaned out because we don't want you going into diabetic coma and passing out because you got too much sugar in the blood. So when you think about that, and then you go drink a Mountain Dew with 9 to 12 teaspoons of sugar in it, and then you're using that to wash down a cheeseburger and now the bun and the French fries and all of that, you can see where our bodies, like we've just revved up, your pancreas is working its little brains out to make enough insulin. Insulin is now going through cleaning the blood, and it's got to put that energy, the metabolic, how you process energy, into the cells. So it's putting it into cells, and pretty soon the cells go, sorry, we're full. We can't take any more energy. That's when it becomes insulin resistant. So now the cells are uptight, which is basically a kink in your electrical hose. I always like to say insulin is like the engineer in your body, and it's his job, or not the engineer, electrician trying to get the electricity up to the attic, down to your feet, to the end of your appendages. And that's why we see, or neuropathy, erectile dysfunction, dementia. All of those things are because we have a kink in our metabolic health, in our electricity is not going through the house. We have a short.
I always say, I've said this to you many times. This is, what are they thinking? What are they thinking? It's craziness. This is not even common sense. Whatever I'm ranting about, right?
Yeah.
And I know that pain or discomfort or not feeling well, it messes with your brain. It literally messes with your thinking and the ability to make choices, or and you just don't feel good,
Yep.
right? And so I believe like a lot of the depression, a lot of these things are another side effect. You said dementia on there, but I would think emotional health is totally related to this, obviously. And if you did I bet if you did a deep dive on their diet, they're pretty much eating donuts and
Yeah.
5,000 calorie coffee drinks.
Well, again, it's by design. We're marketed this way. When you recognize, so like there's been a lot of different things, and I think we're going to talk about salt another time, but
We're going to do another show on salt. Yeah.
but when we see the legislation, and so in the 90s, the cigarette companies started seeing the writing on the wall. So they started buying the food companies, moving their addiction specialists over to the food companies. Then,
Yeah, it's all connected. Yeah.
then we demonized fats. Oh, fats make you fat. Well, nobody wants to get fat. So, but your brain is fat. You have to have fat. So then they took the fats out. And when you take the fat out, you have to add the sugar in. Well, in the 70s, when they lowered the salt, if your salt is low, your sugar receptors are high. So they know full well, if we add more sugar to things, it's the addiction. Your brain acts the same way on cocaine and heroin as it does on sugar
So
and
we
flour.
are a marketing campaign.
Absolutely. I always say we're the ant farm.
Right.
And they're, shaking us up and watching us how we respond. And so, but if your brain is under the influence of sugar, you really can, it's not much different than being on drugs. It's the number one overused drug, legalized drug. So you had mentioned depression and mental
Yeah, I
illness.
totally think it's related.
So for all the advantages that we have living in America, we're the sickest. We've just dropped to 34. Is that what we just said? So we're the sickest we've ever been. We have 1 in 3 adults are pre-diabetic. 1 in 3 adults are obese. 1 in 4 adults have a mental health disorder. 1 in 4 adults have a fatty liver. 1 in 4 have digestive disorder. 1 in 4 men 30 years or older have low testosterone. 1 in 6 adults suffer from depression. 1 in 6 women experience infertility. 1 in 7 chronic kidney disease. 1 in 9 Alzheimer's, diabetes, PCOS. You get the idea.
Yeah, those numbers are shocking, and again, it's probably a diet thing. It's not it's not necessarily because we live in America. It's because of our diet.
That's the exciting part to me. Is they're all diet related, but they're all being treated with a pill to take care of the symptom, which never gets you better. It just gets you chronically sicker. So if you go in and you're pre-diabetic, which there's no such thing, you either are or you aren't, but they wait till it's so far gone. And then we're going to put you on insulin, which is actually the problem. You have too much insulin in your body already. Now we're going to treat it with more insulin. So your numbers might go down, but it's not fixing the problem. And that's where we see it be. We're going to put you on metformin. Well, that's just a gateway drug to the next thing. The other thing is the confusion in the terminology. Like
metformin is what, a GLP-1 thing?
Metformin is for diabetes. It's supposed to bring your blood sugar down. So it'll bring your blood sugar down by like 23%.
So that's not the modern.
But this unicity, this little tea that we drink, will bring your blood sugars down by 45%.
Right.
It's a nutraceutical that's been studied and been tested. And it actually was in the 80s where we all know Rexall drug. That's been around for a long time. Rexall drug had done all the studies on this new product this unicity, and it was ready to roll out in the 80s because
Unicity is you not Unamante.
Unimante, but
You
the company's
I
unicity.
got
Yeah.
you. Okay.
Okay. So they were going to roll out this program, this product, knowing full well it had been it's studied, it's tested, it's in the physician's desk reference, and so it's not just a weed somebody pulled and stuck in hot water. It's been tried and true. It's a tea, and it was going to bring down help with diabetes, cholesterol, and heart issues. And about that time, Big Pharma is like, oh no, we have a better answer. They just found out that the statin would lower your cholesterol. Well, before then, they didn't care if your cholesterol was 300, 400, 500, 600.
Right. It's something a body produces.
And
Right.
statistically, we know that the higher your cholesterol, the higher your life expectancy is. So, but it was something that we could manage and bring down the LDL. Well, the LDLs are the big fluffy ones we really don't care about. I think that's right. Um, and so, but we could bring the number down. So now all of a sudden, oh, we got to set a cap, 200. We now have 67 million Americans on a statin, which only lowers your risk of a heart issue by 1%,
Right.
because cholesterol is not the heart issue, but um it raises your risk of diabetes, or not diabetes, well, that too, but Alzheimer's by 24%.
Yeah.
So this is an area where I watched my dad be the human experiment. He was doing everything the professionals were telling him to do. He was eating the grains, cut back on the fat, get the fats out. Let's start eating margarine, not eating the eggs. I
Mark.
mean, all the stupid stuff we can look back on. Yeah, margarine is one molecule away from plastic. And so, and then they had him afraid of he did have a heart attack. So they got him on a statin, which then he actually died with dementia in fairly active health.
Right.
But
he was a specimen.
but most likely he had insulin resistance. He was able to manage it with excessive exercise and activity. So he didn't have a weight problem. So you didn't recognize it. And this is the other thing is I think we always think weight is the symptom of unhealthy, which
Right.
it's just a symptom, but you can be skinny and still have erectile dysfunction. You can have neuropathy.
Well, you could be eating
You
terrible.
can have high blood
Right.
pressure. Yeah.
Right.
Because I think the interesting thing is when our insulin is high, that means we're over fueling our machine, and pancreas, you hear a lot more about a pancreatitis because it's working so dang hard. Insulin then is high, it's running rogue in your system. So when the cells tighten up, insulin has to put the energy somewhere. So it obviously builds storage units. And it can store it in your liver. That's the fatty liver. It can store visceral fat. That's a
Right.
dangerous fat around your organs.
Right.
And then it also takes the inside of your blood vessels, because insulin is a growth hormone. That's why you can get pregnant women. They said, oh, diabetes, pregnancy-induced diabetes. There's another word for it. It's skipping me right now, but it's helping you grow a baby. But when you don't have a baby to grow, you start growing skin tags.
Yeah, I had that in my late 40s, and
Yeah.
and they all went away as soon as I changed my diet. And I don't know how they go away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're gone. So you
Yeah.
tell me how that works.
Yeah, people that are start on the protocol and get their insulin under control, they'll go away. But the other thing that will go away, so the inside of your blood vessels, because of the insulin, they start swelling, they're thickening. So as they thicken, they're tightening. So now we have high blood pressure. So in that high blood pressure, and sugar is actually very damaging to that lining, and those linings get cracks like you would a hose that's been out, maybe a frozen hose. It starts getting tight.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
You
and
can't work with them.
no, and it cracks, and cholesterol's job is to go in there and fill the cracks. They're trying to protect you. But your doctor goes in and goes, oh my gosh, you've got high cholesterol. We've got to blast the cholesterol. So they're going to blast the cholesterol, which is actually like the fireman at a fire. It'd be us like going and seeing a fireman with his hose putting out the fire, and we kill the fireman thinking we're helping, but the fire's still burning. And so that's why we have even, I think over 100,000 people a year on statins are dropping dead of a heart attack.
And this is a perfect example of something maybe that we studied out on our own. because we weren't going to get the information from whatever the experts are. Right? I hear the word expert, I run the other way because I mean that's just my attitude, and I'm terrible person. But the thing of it is this is a subject where I started reading about it, and I'm just like, you don't eat cholesterol. Your body produces it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a high cholesterol food. There's not cholesterol in food. You make it, and it's a response to what you're eating. So when I started, and and this is another encouragement going back to what I started the show with is just this idea of do your own research. Like everything Kathy's sharing with you guys right now is reading and studying and going to conferences and whatever, and people are who are being pioneers, right?
Hmm.
They're stepping out of what they've been taught in whatever medical school, whatever, and they're realizing, hey, there's something going on here more than what we're being told. So they're pioneering on them, and then they poured that into you. Yeah, again, I think you guys are, Unicity and you and all this army of people out there with this mission to save the country. That message is pretty powerful, right?
It's funny you should say save the country because I got involved in a lot of the election integrity stuff early on, thinking,
Yeah.
oh, we got to take our country back. Of course, I've been called the election denier and, I had spittle in my face and whatever. And I just
And
remember,
then what's funny is it's all come out.
well, it's all coming out. And the same with, but I guess when this hit me, 93% of us are metabolically unhealthy. And the sad thing is most of us don't even know it.
Right.
We can't take our country back. We can hardly fight ourselves out of a bag of chips.
Yeah.
I mean, we are so addicted and so set up. And, and I'm not talking guilt and condemnation because we've all been there. But if you don't understand what's happening under the hood and in your body and how we're being marketed to addictively, when you go into a restaurant, what did they bring you first, Mark?
Bread.
Bread or chips?
We went up the other night, and I said nope. And again, I'm in that no mood for a long time now on bread, but that's the first thing they bring.
Yeah. So, and they're not just being nice. We think they're being nice, but what happens when they do that is it jacks up your dopamine. We got this big dopamine rush. Dopamine then hits off leptin. Leptin is the drug, the hormone in your body that says you're full. So now we're like, woo, we're on this high. We get our food, we overeat, we're miserable. We walk out of the building. I love this place. We're burping and we're farting and we're thinking, oh, I must be allergic to something.
Yeah, right.
You just
I'm
had enough
gluten intolerant. Yeah.
for 3 people. I
Yeah.
mean, I look back now at Mark and I for the last decade. Well, he's been drug alone for part of it.
I have
but
been drug.
last-
Truthfully, I've been difficult, kindly difficult, but difficult.
The last decade for me has been this journey of getting my health figured out and learning it. And I can look back and go, oh my gosh, we were eating antacids all the time. I had no idea that acid reflux was insulin resistant. Again, the skin tags, insulin resistance. Just learning the order in which you eat your food. There's just so many different things that we've been marketed to keep us stuck.
Well, and not to go too long today, but again, we're going to do more of these on different topics and different things, and we encourage you to join us. And
Yeah.
as you can see, it's pretty easy to get her or I going on this subject because it's pretty important. And as we get older, we still want to learn, and this is another encouragement, even from today. Again, keep repeating it. You know, don't take our word about cholesterol. Don't necessarily take our word, but it's our testimony of what we've discovered and is working for us. But the thing of it is, we know it can work for you. And do your own research. Dig in there, right?
Yeah.
Start reading. Start seeing a book that might be interesting, and at the end of it, you're gonna go, "Oh my gosh, I'm doing that all day long." And if I change this one thing, I'll have a 10% better life or whatever in terms of how I feel, my health, or whatever, right? And again, it's important. I wanted to encourage you. Do you have a testimony of any kind as we close of somebody? I mean, it's literally thousands, it seems like.
I love testimonies, but I'd have to say, in December, I went down to Vegas for a training. And I like to say, I feel like I was following behind Jesus because everybody you met was like, I used to be this. I used to have IBS and not be able to leave the house. I had anxiety. I'd lost 100 pounds. I used to be diabetic. I laid my medication down. I used to be on 20 meds. I mean, it was story after story after story like that. And I'm like, that's how it should be.
Right.
That's God's heart. And, from way back when, knowing that God wants us well and we aren't, it messes with your faith. But what I'm recognizing now is, and I've always known that if there's an issue, it's on my side, not God's side. But God has said some things and made some promises. But he's also left us here in charge. And when we're praying for him to heal us with the back door wide open and we're, ignorantly or not eating things and adding things, it's really difficult for him to do his part when we're not doing our part.
Well,
So,
when we're in the temple, we're supposed to take care of it. And again, the message is that, that sounds quite religious, I guess. But the truth of it is eh, when you get that idea that you're housing Jesus and he's living with you, right?
well, I always say, the scripture says taking care of your temple is your reasonable act of service, right?
Right.
But if you don't want to live in your own body, why would the Holy Spirit want to live in there with you? So it's a reasonable act of
And I
service.
think the Bible also teaches, is if you study it out, is that healing, the way he made our bodies is healing itself all the time, is it should be common and expected. And I don't think it
Yeah.
is as common
No.
and expected anymore. We should be healthy.
Yeah, but those are the testimonies again that I get to hear. Just got one from a gal the other day. Her husband was able to drop his A1C number 2 points in 3 months. His doctor was shocked and amazed.
Right.
And that's the other side of it. With this particular company, we're getting a lot of physicians, and most of them went into the business because they want to help people,
Right.
and they're frustrated because they don't know these things. But as they're learning and they're recognizing this product is actually healing people, they're getting excited to come over. And I think we are on the ground level of a new frontier of new options because
Right.
people are wanting
Yep.
a nutraceutical, what's natural, what's not going to interfere with other things. And that's probably why I was really I had no intentions of kind of jumping all out, but when it came available and obvious to me, I can help more people outside of the office, and it kind of excited me. And I guess I feel like too, anytime Jesus healed people, it was simple. Spit in some mud, stick it in their eye, tell them to go wash in the river. When I
He'd ask
saw
him, "What do you want?" He asked the one,
Yeah,
"What do you
yeah.
want?" "Well, I want to see."
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, but the simplicity, I think he works on simplicity. And this is two simple natural products. It's a yerba mate tea that's been the way it's processed. It's an extract. So it's 75 times stronger than the natural yerba mate. You can't get it anywhere else. So you drink 2 teas a day, and then you have a fiber that's a blend of two it's 7 different natural, plants, so it's, soluble and insoluble fiber
It gets very thick.
that actually if you shake it, it thickens up like applesauce. You drink it down before your largest meal, so you feel fuller longer. It keeps your carbohydrates, it keeps your blood sugars level. Both of these are gonna keep your blood sugars level, which is gonna allow your insulin to become sensitive again. So when we're resting, we're gonna add it with some intermittent fasting. So when your body is resting, it can be healing.
Yep.
And because we're eating, so we've been taught, oh, got to keep eating, eat 6 small meals a day so you keep that metabolism going. We're just spiking our insulin all day long. And then we're having these spikes and drops. And I tell a quick story.
I sleep all the way.
I don't sleep now. I'm not having the crashes. And it's just because we don't have the proper information. So again, I don't want to put any guilt and condemnation.
No.
It's the truth is setting us free, and I'm excited to be able to share the truth. And again, the simplicity of start your day with a mate, hot or cold, have another one in the early afternoon, drink your balance with your largest meal of the day, and step 4, feel great. Who can't do that? And so if you're interested in any more information or just having some more truth bombs, you can find me on Facebook, Kathy Phileas Workman on Facebook.
And it'll be a link in the description. You'll be able to get a hold of her that way. And we'll figure out, you'll have ways to get in touch with her just from this podcast and this live show. So again, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
I
this is fun.
loved that. It was a fantastic conversation. But no, again, I think we should do more of these. I think people are hungry for any kind of common sense. And again, we in many ways, I'm gonna say we don't know anything, and you need to go find out on your own. But at the same time, we want to encourage people to do that. Right? Yeah.
Well, and that's, I guess, the other thing I love about this company is they want the product to go word of mouth because it's education that's
Yeah.
helping.
Yeah.
It's not just another little, magic pill per se. It's actually educating people. You learning your body. And until you know different.
Yeah.
You can't do different.
Yeah, it's 100% true. And again, I don't want to get into on this podcast ever being a person who's telling. I want to be presenting and let people figure it out on their own. I can't even make my own decisions sometimes wisely, right? You know what I mean? So I certainly I'm not going to do that for others. But if anything I can encourage people with is to begin to research and study your own life, your own body, your own thing. And it's amazing what you can gather out there. It's what's available now.
Well, what is your testimony then on
Well,
Unicity for the last 5 months? Your
for,
skin, I know you
for
mentioned
me,
that.
and then sleeping, and my skin is healed up like 100%. Like, you don't realize I used to carry a stick to scratch down my pant, like, and then there's
That's
like Dave Chappelle show, he had Ashy Larry. Well, I was pretty much Ashy Mark in terms of skin, but it was terrible, and again, some of those things I would have never connected to diet. I would connect it to some other thing. Matter of fact, early on when I was a young man, you remember this, that I was diagnosed with, the doctor said it wasn't psoriasis or eczema, it was a fungus of some sort. And he put me on Nizoral, remember?
Mhm.
And it says right on the package, will basically kill your liver, check your liver
Yeah.
functions all the time.
Mhm.
So I did that, and then I ended up not affording that because it was $9 in Mexico. Then we went to Mexico to the pharmacies on the streets in Laredo, and getting getting these packs of, and again, I did that for 14 years, and I wonder to this day if that's going to get me. It sounds
Yeah.
crazy, but I was diagnosed with something I didn't have, and I was
But
pursuing
you
an
just said
answer.
something. You just said, I'm afraid it's going to get me. And I think the truth is, we get these fear things
100%.
operating in us. And when you really get the truth that your body wants to heal itself, you give it what it needs. And that's what I feel like. This is fertilizer for the roots. So everybody's getting different results. But if you're fertilizing the roots of the tree, you don't have to be clipping and spraying
No.
for bugs and all of that. And that's what I'm seeing. Everybody gets, different results. Some of the basics are, this is just going to help you not be hungry, so
For sure.
you can take your diet under control. You're not craving the carbohydrates. You can make some changes. Energy has been our huge
Big deal.
one.
Yeah.
Just real consistent energy all day. Low inflammation. You've
Yeah.
talked about your hip joint.
My joints, my hips, all that's
Mhm.
gone. I literally couldn't go for a walk with Kathy. I said, I can't make it. I won't make it. I'm going to be hurting. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can back me up.
Oh yeah, he was a big baby.
But the truth of it is all that's gone. And I point it to this pursuit of trying to be healthy, but also these add-ons, these products, these things, I don't eat breakfast. If I have a lunch, it's tiny, and then a meal at night. I'm down to basically a meal a day, and it's crazy. And again, you're not hungry.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you do eat and you focus on your protein
Yep.
and your healthy fat, you don't have room for carbs.
Nope. And I used to drive home from work, and I'd go up 10th and thinking, okay, I could get into Wendy's and get a Frosty. And then within 3 blocks, I could pull in there and get a donut at Super Wine. I'm just telling myself of the way your mind used to work, and this is 10 years ago, but that's gone. That kind of thing is a big deal to me, is that my thinking and my kind of plotting my next step in terms of my little
Yeah.
comfort food.
No, addiction.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I got comfort at Wendy's at the Frosty, and I got 5 more blocks to go. I'll whip into Super One and say I'm getting milk for the house and grab a donut.
And now I'm really uncomfortable.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the lie, it protects the lie.
I do think we plot that way. People don't even see themselves doing it.
No.
And I think driving up 10th in Great Falls is a trigger for a lot of people.
Well, I always say the food noise. And that's
Yes.
the big thing with this. When I tell people it'll take away the food noise, they're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You're just like, it's so eerily quiet.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's wrap it up.
We're going to wrap it up, end the show. Thanks for coming and listening to us, guys. And we're going to post this, and it'll be everywhere, Spotify, YouTube. It's on Rumble Live right now. But again, we're going to do more of these, and we really want to do our best to just encourage more than anything. And so as an announcement, my next podcast coming up is going to be with Steve Stengel. He's with Encore Energy. He is absolutely a pioneer, jumping off cliffs for the oil field, and what he's developing these leases, and he's a treasure hunter, as he would say. He goes, I'm a treasure hunter. He is 100% leaving things behind with his career in the oil field. I think he's worked for some pretty big companies and stepped out, well, probably about 15 years ago, but he has an amazing story. So that's going to be filmed next week and then again be out there. He's an amazing man with amazing insights and so positive and just a wonderful guy. You're going to enjoy that. So I announced that and look forward to having you back. And thanks for coming. We just enjoyed the heck out of this and want it to be an encouragement. Hope it is.
Seek and you will find, and keep asking questions. There's answers out there.
Amen.